Okay, good. Just before I start, I want to. Do you hear me? Yeah, perfect. I want to tell how pessimistic I was about the project because I chose to work on the apartments, and remember how Elias was telling us never scrape Le Bon Coin or never scrape this horrible websites, and I was working alone, and everyone was working in a team, so I was like very, very pessimistic. But hopefully, finally, it got very, very well. So I'm really excited to show you what I worked on. So let's go, and I will just hide it. Super. If you have any comments or whatever, you can just interrupt me, and it's gonna be perfectly well. So my idea was that I maybe probably in 2 months will look for apartment to rent, and I wanted to facilitate for myself that thing. And like when you search for an apartment in Paris, you basically want that, especially when you're not from France. You think about that or that or maybe that. And finally, who really lived in Paris, you probably will have that or that or even that. So there's a little image in Welcome to Hell if you search for an apartment in Paris. And basically, with all that being said, I had several ideas. I wanted to scrap all the websites to have a base of apartments, such as Papefer, Se Loger, Le Bon Coin. After, with all that, I wanted to analyze the dataset and basically find the best apartments by price to quality ratio, and maybe do a market research, so to see a price per square meter and maybe compare to other cities if I have enough data, and make for me a useful tool actually that I will use in several months while I start to search for an apartment. So something that will facilitate me research and surely not get banned because I had a lot of problems with scraping the data from some websites. And so when I was looking for websites such as Le Bon Coin, as you can see here, or Flatlooker, or Se Loger, or Papefer, I finally decided to concentrate my efforts only on one website because Le Bon Coin, you remember, Elias told us clearly no. And Flatlooker, it has English names, so no French person will ever post anything there. And Papefer is basically from particulier particulier. And what I had as my experience that actually agencies have lower price than particulier. So websites like Suloger that scrap agencies' websites gonna be less expensive than from real persons. I know that it's contradictory, but that's how I heard, and I think it works in Paris exactly. And so for me, basically, all of that being said, I decided to concentrate on Sologer, which was easier to scrape and to get the information, and it was less expensive for me. And just to say you before, you will get some sadness during this presentation because of speaking about Loyer in Paris and all of that, and comparing to other cities in France, it can give you some sadness. So I imported, like right now, I will get very technical. I will skip some technical parts because you all know it, but just to show you that I import a lot of things like warnings and time and rejects. It will take some rejects. And actually, my website doesn't have Sologer. I mean, doesn't have a JSON. I mean, it has JSON behind, but it was more usable and stable to search for CSS headers. With Elias, I think we tried for 1 hour and a half to get this JSON. We finished at like 7:30, and still it was, nah, I just let's go for easy solution. So as usual, headers, soup, and I'm just going for to make some tables in my dataset. So something very, very usual for us. And that's basically head of my data set. So I scrape the website, and from it I take the price, the number of rooms, superficie, that's the English word, and link, basically, just that. And that's the head of my website. So surface, number of rooms, price, whatever. Just to tell you the thing, using regex, this is the most complicated regex I did in my life. It took us with Elias together 20 minutes maybe to make it, just to take the surface in square meters. So it's scraped, and right now I have a choice for parameters that I can pass to my big function that I will make. So I scrape the different zip codes, zip codes. So I can have a choice over several cities like Toulouse, Nice, Vincennes, or arrondissement in Paris. And basically it is in a link here. So when you choose Paris, you have this CP 75, and you have your price limit and page number. So if you want to, we'll concentrate on just several arrondissements in Paris, on the southeast from 11th to 15th. And I will make a price limit for, well, whatever you think is interesting for a person to live in Paris, but I think it's 1200. So after my script, get pages, number of pages. Basically, I have that number of annons, and I just divide it by 25 by number of pages, and I have my number of pages. So right now I'll get the soup. I hope I will not get banned, and I have 27 pages. And I wrapped everything in a function. So remember, Geoffroy, I told you that I don't want to make a function. Finally, I made it, and we'll start it. So what is the max price? What do you guys think? What should I put as a max price for me for that arrangement?
600.
No.
No, I don't have that.
1,200 maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I put 1,200. And so the script tells us that we have 27 pages to scrape, and it starts scraping. So while it scrapes, it will take probably like 2 minutes. I will show you how is it working. So I have my price input, I have my data frame, and calculation of pages. After, there's a little notifier of user about quantity of pages, so to know how much time it will take. And after, there's a loop. So it looping over range of pages, basically link with zone, price limit, and whatever. I have every column, like I showed you before, with very, very impressive regex. And it appends info to the data set. And finally, I have accept continue. So if I have a problem, like here, for example, a problem on page 5, probably it's because of the advertisement on pages. I don't really know. I just skip the page. But still, I will have a lot of results. So it's still, I hope yeah, it does something. Okay. And
what? So you set up a time slip for 2? Or
yeah.
What is it?
So time slip for 2, it waits for 2 seconds between 2 pages of scrapping. So I think it's just a good practice told by Elias to wait for that. I personally think it's a good thing, but I didn't try without actually. Maybe I will not get banned without that. And so voila, I have a done message. I have 3 pages that have been skipped. And let's see some interesting, some interesting.
Quick question, Igor, and maybe for Elias also, something I just thought about. In order to avoid like being kept or spotted as a robot, as a bot, could we do a random time slip from a range from 2 to 8 seconds?
I don't know if Elias is listening to us because he's probably out, but I thought about that, but actually I've never get banned because of my time sleep. So actually they do not check if you have like the same amount of time between opening the page, at least for me. So probably they're not checking it. But yeah, it will make totally sense to do
And
that.
in order to make it work, you just select random number from 2 to 6 or to 8 and set up it into time sleep. Remember, I told you about random number generator or random from NumPy or NumPy random choice. That's where we get it from. So yeah, it is possible. Okay, good, continue.
Okay, thank you. So that's my dataset where you can see price, number of rooms and surface, and also a link to that page. And also in the end of my function, I make a price per square meters. So how much do I need to pay for every square meters in apartment? Remember, it's going to be interesting after. And just some descriptive statistics that I can see using the pivot table. So if you have one room in Paris, you will probably pay that. And if you have two rooms, you will probably pay that in our price range. And if we'll go for number of rooms per surface, with one room, average will be 25, and with two rooms, 34. And after there's some outliers, as you can see, but this is probably for east of Paris, in our price range, the ratio that you can expect. And
25?
yeah, 25 for one. I mean, I think it's a studio and one room.
Oh my God. That's like a bathroom.
Yeah. Well, one of the most expensive cities in the world. So,
Yeah, and come
and
on, I've been living in the apartment of 10 square meters.
yeah, that can be tough, I would imagine. So, going for insights, I'm pretty excited for that. I have a very big dashboard that I made without using Tableau, and that's it. So let's go diagram by diagram. So first is a histogram, and it shows us how many square meters we have by just by scraping the data. And probably most of the apartments go to the 30 to 40 square meters, 25 to 40, I think. Next thing is a box plot of the same thing, surface in square meters. And as you see, the median is something around 30 in our price range. After, very interesting thing, it's a price to surface. So how much square meters do you have for your price? And as you can see here, it's quite interesting. There's almost a line here made of dots. So it's almost linear except for everything else. And we can also see very interesting thing is 50s and hundreds where what you pay for an apartment. You see here, here, here. But the most interesting thing that I've been talking to Geoffroy, Etienne, Thiago, and Arthur is that's so this is a square meter price. So how many euro would you pay for 1 square meters in your apartment to surface? And this thing is basically incredible. And if you will say me how to explain that, you will be the most intelligent person in the world. Do you have any suggestions? Why do we have this graph? Anyone? Any suggestions? Okay, so remember we scrape agencies market. So agencies are not particulier who can make any price they want. So that graph basically is encadrement de loyer in Paris. So this is a law that says you cannot. How can I turn that? Okay, that is a law that says you cannot, for this square meters, pay more than that. So if you have 40 square meters, you cannot pay more than, I don't know, 30 euro per square meter, just forbidden by law. And apparently it works in Paris, at least for agencies market, it works. So I
Not
think
for
if I
all,
will, yeah,
not for all of them.
well, for all that I scraped on
Yeah,
Seloger,
yeah.
apparently, I mean, I cannot explain that.
Yeah, I mean, it is the case. It is actually the case. That's basically the reason. But there are some agencies that are violating this law. At least we saw that in the beginning of the year with one of the projects as well. That there were some companies that were violating this law.
Okay, which is, yeah, very probable. But I think that if we'll get the data from PAPFR, we will not have the same
Yeah, yeah,
straight
for sure.
line. Yeah, for sure. And there also were funny things when you have like 10 square apartment for 100 square, 100 euro for square meter. So very interesting correlation coefficient. For that graph, we have 0.8. So if you have a square, if you have square meter of your apartment with 80% probability, you can say the price of that apartment. That's interesting about Paris. After my second finding is I wanted to study cities, different cities in France, how it works. And so I'm sorry I don't have a function for that, Elias. And this is a very big function, just copy paste for every city like Lyon and Paris
Aw.
and Nice. And yeah, I could make it better. But like that, I have a 200 lines code. Look, it's got to be very nice for my GitHub. So I will not even run it right now. I'm sorry, because it will take too much time. So it just runs for 10 pages for every city that I mentioned, for cities. And I have that's my data set. So almost 1,000 rows for Paris, Toulouse, Lyon, and Nice. Paris, Lyon, Nice. That was a very nice image actually. And so right now it's very interesting how it goes. I'll just rerun this thing. And here you can see a price in euros per square meters. And using Plotly, we can actually play a lot with the graph. So if you compare Toulouse to Paris, to 5 arrondissements that I chose before, you can just see the how it works. So for 60 square meters, you will probably pay 700 euro in Toulouse, and in Paris you will not have 60 square meters. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, there just not no interference between those two data points in our price range for sure, but it's really kind of fun. And we also have, you see these dots on the one line that we don't really have here in Toulouse. We have groupments of points, which is also quite interesting. And if we want to compare Lyon to Nice, it becomes more complicated actually, you see, because the values are more spread than for Toulouse or for Paris. In Paris and Toulouse, people think apparently in the same way. And for that, I made another graph, which is here. So I have box plots showing that, and which is very interesting. So, for example, at Lyon, which is red, you will have more surface for more money. So probably using the box plot and data, you will pay more for more. And in Nice, will pay less for less, which is kind of interesting. And if we will compare everything else, I mean, Paris and Toulouse, I mean, that's why I told you about sadness. And in Paris, you can see that the values are very, very tight, like especially in the surface. So apartments in Paris from our data are very, very similar one to each other. And finally, the last thing that I'm very proud of, and I was looking for 2-3 hours maybe, is this graph. It's a tool that I will personally use when I will look for an apartment. And same, a price in euros per square meters for Paris with a trend line. So if we go out of outliers, this is a general trend line, how much the price is going up for every square meter. But what we have here is the ability to click on apartment. So I see, for example, an apartment for 900 euros with 37 square meters, which is, I think, nice in Paris. I have less for almost the same money. And I have Ce Loger opening link, and I can just scrape for it. I think it can be a nice mobile application actually, or at least all of my friends been pretty excited about that. So here basically I have nice square meters for low price, and here I have low square meters for a lot. So here, for example, you have 990 euro for 9 square meters. Let's check it out.
Is it a parking lot?
Well, you can see that. That's, I mean, interesting. 1,000 euros for that.
Did you click to the top one?
I clicked here, this one.
Okay.
So if I click to the top one, is 1,000 euro for 62 square meters. It will probably be this one.
Show me.
Yeah. You see this photo. What's that? Why is that like that?
Gosh.
Might be old person.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, you see that this is for me at least, it's a great tool that I will personally use in my search. So I will only use that data points, and maybe one of, I don't know, 20 will be a good apartment. So I will evade all of that. It's a nice thing to use after. Voila. And basically going for thoughts, I will just recapitulate what I've made before. So I have insights of this dashboard of any city that I want in France. I have study of cities that I made with different things using Plotly, and I have that tool finally that will help me a lot. So speaking about thoughts and improvements, I can actually totally remove outliers from a graph, so make a 90% confidence interval. I can also hue graphs by photo quantity. So when I go to Ce Loger, if I have like 2 photos, it probably be less interesting and more chance of a scam than apartment like that with 6 photos. So more photos I have, more sure it is. I think it's a nice thing to try. And I will actually also add a person input for a city if I want to do a market research. So a person writes Paris or Lyon or whatever, and I pass that information to Ce Loger. So I will have interesting, like easier to user thing. And I also really want to do that after maybe bootcamp. Same thing for booking.com. So for example, if I go to Kyrgyzstan, I mean, if finally we will know where is it on the map, Elias. So if I will go, I really want to know if that price for that apartment is nice thing. So 3D map, which is can be avoided, but interesting thing, 3D thing for price by square meters and by distance to center can show me like top 10 best apartments in my loyer, in my price range. And that's basically what I spent maybe, I don't know, 2 hours before any tourism, and I can automate it. Nice thing to do that. And also, I was the biggest enthusiast of Tableau, and I didn't do Tableau. So for next thing, I really want to add more Tableau pie charts, something like that with Tableau, you know, looking for anything. Voila. Really hope to do that. Looking forward. And if I was to start from scratch, I would totally choose something more motivating than apartments, because I personally was not really motivated. You remember, guys, Vendredi? Friday. I was very like, and I also need to write an error handler for CAPTCHA. If I'm not a robot, that I need to go, because every time to go on a website and change something, every time I got it, I just had a lot of errors. And final thing, I also expect Elias to study as a learning machine. I've heard something about machine learning, learning machines. So after week 8, I hope we will learn a machine to go on visits on every apartment for me. And Elias, you told me we'll do that, right? Okay, no answer is a good answer. I hope I will have that. So thank you a lot for your time, and I'm looking forward for your question.
Good. Questions, comments, suggestions. You should have questions, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
yeah, go ahead, Arthur.
yeah, there's two very interesting tools that you used. Well, obviously the link from the graph, which is very nice. You used as well a zoom on a graph, I think, and then as well, it's probably the same tool. And then you were able to switch some fields to select some cities and remove some cities, which was very good.
Yeah, thank you. All of that is Plotly basically. So only one thing that I needed to make is that, which was 2-3 hours of my time. So how to click on the button, and after I have an apartment, that was really complicated. But everything else, it was kind of easy, and it's basically Plotly inside functions. But still, yeah, I like Plotly a lot, but not as much as I like Tableau. Together. Other question, guys?
Was there information on Seluge about the arrondissement or something like, so that you could maybe like check the price per square meter by arrondissement or something like that?
He has
True, yeah.
in the database as well.
Yeah, I could totally do that. So I could take this one.
It's over there. Okay, yeah.
So it is here. Yeah, totally. I could do that. The problem is that link. So when you go to CSS here, it's so complicated. You've seen the regex upstairs. Is just like so I like got only that information.
It's
But yeah,
enough.
totally. But it will make a scope only for Paris, because Paris 18e. For Nice, I will make another thing, and I mean it's not so. But actually, I can just do that here, like for every arrondissement, I can make it, print it, and after do a different base. Voilà, voilà.
Other questions?
Yep, very impressive, Igor. I'm sure you're gonna make Ironhack proud after this bootcamp.
Thank you.
Something else?
Can you show that function of like putting the link in the Plotly? I saw it was something about like web browser.
Yeah, it's actually a web browser. I actually copied it, but I was looking for at least 7 forums where people are saying it's impossible, just don't try it.
You were like, no.
It's a web browser actually, yeah. And after I will need to actually I needed to use different Plotly functions, so Plotly Express and Plotly Go to make this trend line, and because this do-click works only with graph objects, so it was even for that functions, just how do I show x-axis and y-axis, you see the syntax is not the same. So it
Oh
was,
yeah. So the Express was for the trend line?
yeah, so Express is for the trend line, but after what I do, I take trend line as a second trace out of graph, I throw the graph, and I just put trend line above another graph. So it's like doing 2 works at a time, and after taking one thing, making another working. It works. Voilà, voilà.
Good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then I have just one question. Why didn't you consider comparing the price per square meter?
To be honest, actually, I spoke about that with Etienne, Arthur, Geoffroy, and Thiago. And that graph, do you remember my dashboard? That graph with encadrement de loyer, it was very difficult to understand. I don't know how was it right now for you guys, but like it needed a person to take like because this is a generic parameter, square meter price. We don't use that a lot in our daily life. So generic parameter containing meter price for a meter price, it was like taking time for a person to think and how that really works. So I decided now to go for it consciously.
Mm-hmm. Okay.